Are we live?
Live? It's showing on the channel. Showing on the channel.
Welcome.
Hey, yeah, Joe, mute your mic on the mute the video channel.
There. Sorry.
Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Big Bill coming to you live from YouTube Model Builders live show tonight. It's the Into the Locomotive Shop with our very, very special guest, Joe Desmond from Central Jersey Conrail in N-Scale. We're doing a drop-in sound decoder on an SD60 and a few other fun things to do. But before we do that, let's get down to doing some. First and foremost, I hope everyone out there had a very blessed and joyous Christmas, and that everybody was with family and you guys had a good time out there and you enjoyed it. And I hope you got everything you wanted under the tree and the Christmas under your Christmas tree in toys and whatever it was that you wished for that Santa brought you. I hope you did. I'll show you what I got, if you don't mind a little show and tell.
Nice.
Yeah. It's an S1 from Atlas.
Oh.
Gorgeous.
I like some of the Atlas engines. They're real nice.
Yeah, it's the new. It's got logo sound in it, DCC. Like it very much. It's the B&O colors. South Brooklyn Railroad needed a little Staten Island flavor.
There you go.
We got that and stuff like that. So, Joe, how's everything going?
Good, good. We're back. Do you want me to talk about what happened in November?
If you want to. Well, we didn't have the show in November. But before you get to that, let me get to my esteemed director, Barry. Barry, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Bill. Christmas season is over.
Okay.
Done playing Santa Claus.
The hustle and the bustle is over. Everything is back to our regular order of things. But just also a little homework here. Tomorrow, Thursday, the 28th of December, will be the last Johnny's Model Train Talk live show. That will be on tomorrow night, and it will be the last one for December 17th. They will be back in January, but this will be the last Thursday night show for 2017. And Joe, we didn't do a show last month.
Correct. So, you know, my wife had to have an unexpected knee surgery, and she's doing fine. But in November, you know, I kind of got behind the 8 ball with taking care of her and everybody getting sick and all that stuff. And so I was kind of down to crunch time, and I kind of pushed it a little too much. And I used some expired paint on one of the locomotives that we were going to do for the November show, and I just ruined it. I mean, horrible. It looked like the locomotive went through a snowstorm. It was bad.
Really?
Yeah. So then in the rush to make up for lost time, I was doing the locomotive that you'll see tonight, and I cooked the soundboard. So, no, we had to, at the last minute, I just couldn't do it. So my apologies to everybody. So that, you know, we had to, just go back to square one and start over. So we're back in December, and everything's going well. And this project turned out really good, and I'm excited to show everybody.
Well, we're glad that you are here, and unfortunately, you know, things do happen, and we're glad to see how is the wife's health now? How is your lovely wife?
Oh, she's doing good. She's doing rehab. She's starting to walk a little better and less pain, so it's good. It just kind of hit us in the beginning of November, like out of the blue. We're like, oh, wait, what?
Yeah, right. Well, that's usually how things work out, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So does she? Now you have a young daughter, right?
Yeah, I have a 4-year-old, Caitlin.
Isn't that her rehab?
Yeah, that'll rehab you.
Isn't that rehab? I mean, that should be like bending down, picking, running after, and
Oh, she keeps us busy.
oh, I'm sure she does. I'm sure
My
she
princess.
does. I have to tell our listening audience, and you're probably all everybody out there listening who's model railroaders, top-notch guys out there who have layouts and everything. We had my family. We had a family gathering of. I consider them family. It was my pastor and his wife and his three children and a good friend of ours and her daughter. And they have a young daughter who's 6 years old, and the middle daughter is 9 years old. And they got laser tag, to
cool.
put around.
Wow.
And,
coming back, laser tag.
And you get the gun and everything. Well, they needed a very, very dark room to play laser tag, so they asked if they could play in the layout. So yeah, you see, that was. So I shut the light out, and they were in there playing laser tag. They were diving underneath the layout. I cleaned everything out underneath. They were diving underneath the layout. They were running around the peninsula. At one point, my son said to me, "Aren't you a little concerned that they might?" I said, "It's all plastic, and it's anything and everything can be fixed.
Yeah,
nothing the end of the world." So they were in there, and they wanted to know about trains. They were like, "Can you run the trains? Can you run the trains?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay." So I was in the middle of an operation during the week.
Oh my!
So I finished up the switching move.
Nice.
So, nice for me and for you and for you.
Yeah.
Everybody out there who's into operations. But to a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old and two 15-year-olds, it was, how come this is so slow? How come you don't go really fast?
Exactly, yeah.
The little 6-year-old was going, Billy, move this faster. This can go fast. And I'm like, no, it doesn't go fast. No, go fast.
Poor South Brooklyn crew's probably going, oh, look at the attack of the 50-foot kids.
Exactly. So after everything was said and done, the next day we all cleaned up. In the morning, I went in to check the layout to assess what was, if anything, was broken or down, and there was nothing wrong with the layout, but except when I turned power on the layout, all the red lights came on. Every red light for every district lit up. So I went around re-railing cars and stuff, but it was all good. It was a good time. They enjoyed it, and so it was well worth it. It was a good Christmas night.
That's good.
All plastic, just toys,
They're just plastic toys, right, Bill?
That's all they are.
Exactly.
Some a little more than worth a little Tyco in.
Yeah.
But, I took those off the layout, and I just had some of the cars on there, so it was good. But anyway, let's get back into tonight's thing. A drop-in sound decoder on an SD60, a little weathering, and some troubleshooting, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay. So go ahead, Joe. Let us know what your.
Excuse me. So this SD60 was it was a show, a piece I bought at an N-Track show, and it never quite ran right, and I could never figure out why. And it wasn't until I took on this project and got working on it that I'm like, now I see the issues. And so we'll walk you through the process of how I figured out where it was and what I did to overcome it. And and now we got a superb running, nice Atlas locomotive. So with just a little bit of fidgeting around, we were able to correct that.
Cool. So whenever you're ready, we can start the video, Joe.
Roll it.
All right, let me share my screen here.
This just keeps getting better and better, Joe.
High speed, low drag.
There you go. All righty, so let's fire this puppy up.
There we go. You can see it on the. That's a pretty engine.
Yep. All right, we'll pause it right there. So let's do a little historical background on the SD60. Is it possible to leave that screen up, Barry?
Yeah. Bring it back a little bit. There we go.
Okay.
See, I have actual control over the video now. This is great.
There you go. So, you know, if you do some research, you know that, you know, the SD50, which was the predecessor before this, you know, had a lot of issues. It was the 645 prime mover. They had a lot of crankshaft problems, a lot of reliability problems. They also had a lot of electrical problems. And the SD50 really didn't come through where it was, you know, very inefficient on fuel. So EMD was kind of getting their pants beat off by a General Electric, so they had to come up with something fast. So because they were losing market share. So they came out with the SD60. So the SD60 introduced the 710 prime mover through EMD. It's a 3,800 horsepower unit. It was manufactured from 1984 to 1995. And this model specifically was all retooled and all brand new, even though if you look at it from a standpoint, it looks very similar to the 50 and the, you know, but there is some different subtle differences. There was a total of 1,140 units, and there was 537 standard cabs made. So what you have to look at is the SD60 run is there's actually broken down. You have the SD60 standard cab, which we're going to be working with tonight. Then there was also something called the SD60F, which was a cowl unit, and that was made for the Canadian National. And then shortly thereafter, there was what was called the SD60i. And then from my research, what I found is that the SD60i was kind of specific to Conrail because that was Conrail's whisper cab. And then the follow-on EMD product was the SD60M, which is kind of like the beginning of the modern-day locomotive that you see now. And so for our research, we know all that material. We look, and Conrail had 25 of the standard units, and they were numbered 6843 through 6867. And that's important. We want to know before we get going on our decal work to make sure that our manufacturer, Atlas, is using the correct cab number for us.
All righty.
Any questions?
Continue on then?
Continue on. So when I got started with this project, I already knew that there was problems with it, so we kind of skipped the testing phase because I tested it with the DCC, and it was running slow forward with a real grinding noise, and in reverse, it was kind of not really moving at all. Now, in there was an existing Digitrax non-soundboard, so we're just going to go in there. We're going to take everything out. We're going to take the soundboard out, take our chucks off. We'll take all the interference out of our way.
Now, this taking apart this engine is the same as the other two engines. They have all the same basic.
Yeah, Atlas and even Kato, their disassembly phase is pretty much generally the same. You know, I do notice some of the old Lifelike in-scale Lifelights are a little different, they're a little quirkier, but generally Kato and Atlas are the same. So I'm just taking my trucks off, and we're going to get them out of the way. This shell was actually a little sticky. I had to put a screwdriver in there to pry it apart so I could get the old DCC board out of there.
I mean the actual frame halves?
Yes, the frame halves. They were kind of sticky.
Oh, okay.
And now you can see there's a telltale sign that something is wrong. And I haven't even pulled the truck out, and the side frame has already come off.
Oh, wow.
That is the truck that I'm going to look at when we're pulling it, when we're looking at it.
Now, is that a pickup wiper all the way along the side there?
Yes, both on the fireman and engineer side of the cab, there's a wiper for both the front and rear.
Okay.
So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our parts and we're going to put it in a bin and get them out of the way so we can get started disassembling the trucks. Now, as you can see, this one's already apart. So I'm looking at it, and what I have found is that there was a gear in the middle, an idler gear, that was kind of had a broken tooth and was binding. So what I ended up doing is just taking that front truck assembly there you see in that case and just getting rid of it. And I had a bench spare from an older locomotive that was in really good shape, and we brought that in and replaced it. Because once you get into those little tiny gears, unless you're like a Swiss watchmaker, I can't play with them. I just throw it away and we'll go get a whole new set. It's not even worth it.
Yeah, you would need a pretty small gear puller to pull them off the shafts and everything, if you can.
Yeah, exactly. And especially those little idler gears that are in between the axle gears, they're just so minute.
So one of them had a broken tooth, was causing the binding, eh?
Yeah, and it wasn't sitting in the assembly properly either. So I think over time it kind of wobbled around and maybe wore out the plastic inside. So what I've done now, I'm going to get our side frames ready to go into the paint booth.
There's the alligator clips.
I love them things. Oh,
yeah, I do too. I got to make me some of them.
They are just very, very handy tools.
You just put them on the end of bamboo skewers, right?
Yep, and then just took a pair of wire or vice grips and just crunched them on there.
Nice.
All right, so we're going to get into paint work now. First coat, we're going to go ahead and do the grimy black all the way around. So as you can see, it picks up a lot of detail doing this paint work like this.
Yeah, well, it cuts down that shine. Adds a lot of contrast to it, you know?
Exactly. And we're going to hit our fuel tank. We're going to paint that up too. Also going to take just take the care not to hit that sight glass and that shut off because I don't want to have to repaint that again.
Now the block you put these in, Joe, is just like a regular pink foam block, or do you use like a florist foam?
Fluorofoam. I just picked it up at Michael's. Just nice. They're cheap. I think they're like $3 for a big block.
Yeah.
Hitting the ends of the fuel tank, making sure we can get that coverage on that. So if it's seen in any photographs or anything like that, it'll be all covered. So yep. So just taking the time to get a nice even coverage. You know, keep rotating it and letting it dry in there.
So I figure, which brand paint do you use again, Joe?
I'm using the Model Flex.
Oh, the Model Flex, right? Okay.
So what I've done here is, have I changed color? Yeah, I've changed colors now. I'm doing a little mud just to give it a different color differentiation. Nice tight shot. They look good. They come out nice when you paint them. They're clean. Now here I am. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bill.
Andrew Gilmore wants to know what airbrush are you using?
Badger 155. That's the, what do they call it? The internal mix. Dual action internal mix. So I'm cleaning out my brush here. I just want to throw this in there, show everybody this is how we clean out and change colors. I just run some, I have Badger airbrush cleaner. I run it through there in that bottle, blow it out real good, and I'll get my paint cup set up for my next color. Also, I take the airbrush and stick it up against the paper towel and activate it so it blows any of the paint out of the bottom. So now we switched over to a mud, and we're going to airbrush the mud just very lightly in different areas to get some, just so it's not one uniform color. Finding, you know, with the weathering is, I want to make sure we're just putting on multiple layers and overlapping layers and different colors, and it doesn't have to be uniform and just splotch here, splotch there. And I think it comes out in the end product. It just makes it look more realistic.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Absolutely.
You know, some people
that's already added a beautiful dimension to that tank.
Yep. I think a lot of people just fall into that trap where thinking, oh, I'm just going to paint it all grimy black, or I'm just going to do it all mud. And, you know, just mess around with it and let your creative juices flow. And I think it comes out much better. So as you
ever work from prototype photos for that?
Yes, I have. But this project I didn't. So what we're going to be doing now is going to be installing our details. Conrail exclusively used the Sinclair antenna on the fireman side, so that's what I'm doing here is I'm drilling a hole for that. I've already pre-painted them up. The antennas I use are from Trainworks. They're actually etched brass. They're a real nice product. I just usually, I don't even prime them. I just paint like 2 or 3 quick coats with the Conrail blue in it, and it seems to stick really well. So I'm using a number. Go ahead.
You let them dry between each coat?
Yes, sir. Yes, in the paint booth.
Yeah. Well, actually, the first coat acts as the primer, and then the second is the.
Yep.
Gee, that's a tiny little antenna.
Yeah, it is. So I'm using. I dropped it there. I used the number 68. Actually, no, I used the number 70. You got to be careful with the bits. If you try to make too small of a hole, the bit is real flexible, and you can't. When you're trying to drill, it bends. So I had to step it up, and the hole might have been a little bigger than I needed, but when I filled it in with the CA, you didn't notice. Now I'm just going to hold it in place with my finger on the top and flip it over, and we're going to put our glue on the back side.
Oh, okay.
I'll let that dry. Now, I use my hobby knife just to position, make sure it's straight before the CA sets up. So,
yeah, Ralph Renzetti wants to know the airbrush is good, but what about the guys that don't have an airbrush?
You can do it all powder, weathering powders. You don't have to use the airbrush. You could rattle canning's kind of tough with a paint job like this because you're not going to get the you run the risk of getting that splotchiness with the rattle cans. Tester sells a basic airbrush with an air can, I think, for like $19. I think you can pick them up on Walthers.
Yeah, I have one of the little Aztec ones. It's a little hard to control, but it does work.
You're right. So what we're doing here is we're installing the cab signal box. Conrail all had cab signals in their boxes were on the outside. Now this was on their standard cabs. Once they went to the Whisper cabs, then they started putting them inside. This is a first. So the SD60 had, for Conrail, had the FRA classification lights on the nose. They were actually red lensed. A lot of the Conrail units, they were clear lensed. So I went ahead and got some testers, stop signal red, and a little toothpick, and I filled in the little dots. Now it looks a little intense right now, but when we go ahead and do our weathering, we're going to tone it down. Go ahead and pause it, Barry.
All right. All right, we are paused.
Did you have a question, Bill?
Ralph wants to also know, what paint are you using? I think we said that earlier, but
yeah, Badger Model Flex.
Actually, that's a perfect frame right there, Barry. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of the older Atlas models, the flanges are a little too deep, I feel, for the Code 55. And I was noticing early on in construction, my layout did a lot of my older Atlas were, jumping over the frogs, kind of derailing on the points. So I did some research and talked with some people out there in Facebook world. And a gentleman, Scott Perry, recommended that I try these. Now, these are Kato low-profile wheels. So we're going to change them out all over on the new truck that we've got now and the older truck. And this is, I find that the Kato wheel sets, we'll see in the next few frames, they have a much lower profile, but they also run a lot smoother, I think. I think they're a little more refined.
How much is something? How much is something like that?
$8 at modeltrainstuff.com.
And how many do you get in a package?
6.
6.
So that does $8. Does the whole locomotive.
Nice.
So, all right, very good. Roll it.
All right. All right.
So you can see there's one of my tweezer set. That's the new Kato wheel, and you can see how small the profile is as compared to the standard older Atlas.
Yes, yes.
Even the gears are a little thinner.
Gears are even a little thinner. Yes, Barry. It runs a lot smoother too. So now all my N-scalers out there, the newer Atlas models that I purchased recently, I have not had to do this to. This is just my older stuff. I'm talking anything with a production date of 98 or so, I have found that I've had to do this to.
Say that again. Anything 98 and prior?
Prior, yes. If it has the, they put the manufacturer dates on the side of the frames,
right?
For Atlas, for the N scales. So anything 1998 or before that, I've had to do this to. It's a very, if you look at the video, it's a very simple fix. We've already got the truck apart. We're just going to pull one out at a time and pop them right back in, and that's it. It's done. And then what I like to do once I get the wheel set in, because some of those gears may have a little flashing or something like that, is I take it on my work mat right here and I run it back and forth really well until I feel no binding and it's nice and smooth. That's key. You want to do that before you get it up on the layout. Because if you're running it under power and you're putting that extra load on the motor and the decoder, my personal opinion is I don't want to do that. So now before we get into reassembling trucks, we're going to go ahead and put our weathering powders on and kind of just, finish up with the trucks. Just taking the time to work on both sides. Just adds another dynamic to it, I think.
Absolutely. And it makes that, I think it makes that whole paint job pop.
Yes, I agree. So again, anybody wondering, I'm using the Bragdon Enterprises weathering powders.
Have you ever tried playing around with the pan pastels, Joe?
It's on my list of things to do.
Because, I found the pan pastels are less messy.
Right.
And they hold up pretty well like the Bragdon powders do. Okay. But I like them both, actually.
Well, I have it on great authority on someone who's a lot smarter than me that Bragdon and AIM are a good choice when weathering because they don't come off that, they stick. They have a better adhesive quality to them.
Yeah. Well, the Bragdon powders have micro adhesive in the powder. So the harder you push on there, it makes them stick.
Mm-hmm.
So this is that scene I was telling you about where I found that gear. So I was troubleshooting here at this point. So I went ahead and pulled that truck out and put those wheel sets that I put in. I pulled them out and put them right back in the new truck and reassembled. So that's what I'm doing right here. I'm kind of trying to figure out what it is, and then it dawns on me as a gear. Always good to have a nice magnifying glass handy.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So there it is. You can see it's all back together and ready to go.
Excuse me. Joe, your brother Michael says great show.
Thanks, Mike. All right, so now we're going to get into our base weathering. First thing I want to do is I want to attack these grills and grates. I want to get them all darkened in. Just gives them a little more depth. There's a lot of people out there, especially the HO scalers. You guys have a lot more choices than we do here in InScale. I could go with the BLMA style fans. They kind of have the see-through qualities. But, my personal opinion is unless I'm making a show-stopping quality prize-winning locomotive, I think I'm not going to go into that. So just as a good alternative for that, it's just taking the engine black and diluting it down with some alcohol, and it's real thin, and then just working it in, and it works in the grills. So right now, as we're looking at it, it still looks a little bold. But don't worry, when we get to our next level of airbrushing and some some powders over top of it, it'll tone it down and it'll blend in real nice. Atlas did a superb job on this paint job on this locomotive. You can actually read all of those high voltage warning labels on the doors. It looks really good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now, is this engine yours, Joe?
This is mine, yes. And this is other than that decoder that we ripped out in the beginning, this is a stock locomotive. There was nothing done to it. Oh, I'm sorry. I changed out the couplers for the. I don't like using Atlas couplers, so I went with micro change. So that's why it's got the brass pickup on it. So other than that, it was pretty stock. I didn't do any other detail work. Now that dynamic brake fan, I've generally found not to bother with this darkening in period. I just hit the dynamic brake fan with some powders. It comes out better. There's not much relief in the plastic, so it doesn't take to the paint very well. No. It kind of makes more of a mess than it does any good. Oh, wage. Tipped it over, and it's going to roll. The comedy of errors. All right, so I got my paper towel roll out. I think that is the best clamping mechanism there is right now. They're cheap, they're plentiful, and when you're done with them, you throw them away.
Yep.
So now I got my airbrush loaded up with Badger Modiflex sand, diluted it down with like 5 or 6 drops of alcohol in my paint pickup cup, and I'm using 70% isopropyl alcohol, and I'm just going to go on with a nice wide pattern far back from the locomotive and try to just mist it on. I got halfway through the long hood and I realized, oh, I forgot to mask off the windows. So don't forget to do that, because once those window glass gets all messed up with the paint, you're better off just replacing them. So I get, what do they say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of flesh. I think taking the time with this blue painter's tape will just makes it so much easier.
Did you mask the windscreen too?
Yes, I did the front one also.
Okay.
So now we can really get in there, hit the pilot steps, hit the anti-climber, the front plow, give it a nice little dusting across the top. And there we go.
This makes all the difference in the world.
It does, doesn't it?
Yep. Now see the mark. See them FRA classification lights? They don't look so bold now because I hit them with that little sand. So it kind of tones it down. Now it looks like it makes sense.
Yeah. It just makes everything pop.
Yeah.
Yeah, as before. See, hold that picture there for a minute. If you can go back. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Right there.
There you go.
Then, yeah, see how everything just pops out?
Yep.
Now you're going to go to assembly. The next shot is of the clean engine. Am I correct?
Yes, yes.
Now you see all the rivets on the door and all the see.
Yeah,
now
that's the clean one.
Right, now you know there's something on the engine. You know,
yep.
the latches for the doors and everything, but you would just assume. You know, if you were not a modeler, you would just assume that. Right? Look at that. They pop right out.
And that's all we've done. All we've done in that frame right there is we just did a little airbrush work. That's it. Now you could go with this by means. You can go with this right now. If you're doing an SD60 that just rolled out of Joe shops, about a year ago, boom, you're ready to go right there. Throw a little diesel soot by the exhaust stack, and it's good.
Yep. All right. So now we're doing the decoder install.
Yep. So now we're going to get into the decoder. So this time around, we're going to do sound. We're doing the Digitrax SDN 144A1. And that's just a drop-in board from Digitrax. Now, this install here, for some reason, they wanted on the fireman side of the frame, they wanted this little ledge here isolated from the board. I'm not too sure why. I don't have the electrical engineering degree that the designers did.
There's probably a contact in the board that would short to the frame there on the bottom of the board, or the top of the board.
So let me just say this. I didn't catch that step the first time, so I kind of wondered that's why the board blew out.
That'll release the magic white smoke.
So just, you know what, guy?
I love it. Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
I just, you know, no matter, it just goes to show you, no matter how many times you do something, break out the procedure. I learned that years ago in the Navy, and I thought, hey, I'm a good model railroader. I don't need to look at the directions. But things change all the time. Go to the procedure. What were you going to say, Bill?
Go ahead, Bill. I'm glad that you were just man enough to admit your mistake and watch that white smoke and realize that's what you do, because that's what makes this hobby so great, because when you realize that mistake and admit to that, that prevents others from doing it.
Correct.
You know?
And I'm here to teach you.
That's it.
I did that to a wow sound when I was beta testing the diesel. I put it in a split frame Bachman Spectrum GP30, and the wire I ran down along the side of the motor to get to the bottom motor brush pickup got pinched in the frame, and poof, done.
So now with this install, I found it easier to separate the halves and apart on my bench and work on the one side, then bring the other half up in. Because again, with this board, just like the previous boards we've done, got to get them tabs up into the holes in the board. That's totally new. I went back and I looked at previous instruction manuals. I never saw that step before. This has got to be something new with the new Digitrax boards or something. So you got to get them brass motor tabs up in there, and I found it's easier. Lay it on its side and pull it apart and work that way. So now that's our soundboard. We got it in. It comes stock with the Digitrax speaker. So now we're going to go to a test phase.
Okay, you ready? All right.
Now, here's in this test phase, I noticed the board is a little loose. So what you got to realize is some of these manufacturers have production run problems, and it seems that sometimes you'll get boards that aren't thick enough to fit in those little tabs in there. So that's what I picked up here in this testing. It's better to pick it up now before you get all your work together and slap it all together, and then you're scratching your head, why didn't it run? So as you can see, we fired up the sound, we're testing our lights, and we're doing a little movement test, and it's running.
So if it's too loose in there, what do you do? Shim the board in?
I have found a new way of doing it. I want to see how this is received out there. So what I do is, you'll see in the next step, is I take my frame and I put it on my vise with the fuel tank on the vise. And I take a little tack hammer and my nail punch and tap it down ever so slightly just to close that gap just a little bit.
That's a very good idea, actually.
I thought that was more effective than shimming it. Just pinch it down in there. Now, it may lead to problems in the future of removing the board, but we'll see.
That's yet to be determined.
That's correct. So anybody out there who's watching, let's hear your thoughts. What does everybody think? So Digitrax gives you a really good speaker. Now, pause it here, Barry.
Okay.
What I'm running into right now on another project I'm running into is, generally speaking, these Sugar Cube speakers that I'm seeing, TACS or TDD, the one that Tony's Train Supply sells, ESU, they're coming through at 11 millimeters. In order for it to fit properly, it needs to be 10 millimeters wide.
To fit in the hood?
For it to fit without any extra milling or material removing from the shell.
Okay.
Right now, currently, the only speaker I can find that comes through spec'd out at 10 millimeters in a Sugar Cube format is going to be the Zemo. And unfortunately, I'm still trying to find a dealer who has them in stock. So I'm working on that for a future project. This speaker here from
Streamline, I think it's Streamline Back Shop Services.
I did, Barry, and they're sold out right now. So,
okay.
So I'm trying to find a vendor. This speaker that comes from Digitrax, it's this little oval. This is actually a pretty good speaker. And if you do what I'm showing you here, it'll make it that much better. First, what you need to do is the backside where the magnet. You can go ahead and play the video now, Barry. The backside of the magnet.
What's that? Oh, let's see what James is saying. If you hit with a drop of solder on the pads, I mean, okay, I think I know what he's talking about. Yeah.
Yes, I've tried that in the past, and sometimes it works. I have a.
Brian was saying I've seen people add a dab of solder to add mass to the slots, and they'd be worried about breaking the board when prying the tabs back up to do maintenance.
Yeah,
A tiny drop of solder wouldn't hurt, but I kind of like what you're talking about there, Joe. Just slightly keening over that channel, but that's where the problem is actually lying at.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Barry, it was just a teeny tiny bit. I didn't have, and I'm typing very lightly. I'm not like wailing on it. We're not bending steel here. It's just a little
soft metal, so it should bend pretty easy.
I think I'm just going to leave it out there, and we'll see what happens. And I'll get back to everyone in a later day.
James follows up by saying you can file the solder.
True. This is true.
Yeah.
And Ralph Renzetti says, try the ESU. They have iPhone speakers in enclosure. Category number 5321.
5321.
And then Brian W says he uses a small piece of styrene to add counter pressure, and that's why I was asking you if you shim, because a lot of people, that's what they do. They got like a 5,000th piece of styrene for a shim between the board and the frame, you know.
Yeah.
And NW Perry says, would you change out the speaker to an oval type? I had one installed much better than the stock speaker.
Well, Digitrax, this is an oval.
Yeah.
You'll see it. So, I don't know, with this board, I'm not sure I want to be changing the speakers with this Digitrax board. I'm not sure. Verdict is still out. Maybe we'll try it together, see if it works.
Yeah, I'm wondering, is this using a 8-ohm speaker or is it a 32-ohm?
8-ohm.
Okay, so they did change that. Okay.
Yes.
All right, well, let's see what the video shows us here.
So what I'm doing here with this oval speaker from Digitrax is I'm putting Capcom tape on the back side on the magnet. And then I'm going to put the speaker face down with the magnet up towards the board. And I'm positioning it over that rear gearbox. There's actually a little gap now that acts as an air gap, okay, so that the sound projects out through that air gap. And then when we put our shell on top of it, the shell acts as the speaker box. And I found that it kind of resonates much better than if you just stick the speaker in under the board or you just tuck it up in there. By positioning it this, I found that this is the optimal way to get these Digitrax boards to produce a good sound. Now I'm just putting a little Capcom tape on the front, and it just so happens that this capacitor for this board actually fits perfectly in the middle of the light hood. The reason I put the Capcom tape is just so I don't accidentally smush it down and nothing gets into the gear underneath it. You can see in the background in that case in the back, that's the blown out board that I blew up. With these Atlas, generally go nose first, and it snaps right together. I was having a little issue. I went with the tail end first. So I'm going to button this whole thing back up, and we're going to take it to the workbench. Now we're going to go over and program. So programming wise, I just put it up on my program track. I use my Digitrax system just to program it straight from the on the track. There's nothing really unusual about the way I program this board. So now we're going to go into our final weathering phase. Everything took on the programming, so now I'm going to come in here with some some powders, and we're going to weather this. I wanted this unit to look like it had served out in the the Pittsburgh line, running through the tunnel. So I went real heavy on the soot on the roof, a lot of roof soot. So that's what we're doing here. Now, when you're doing your roof line, don't forget to get those edges. Maybe pull it down on the side a little bit because you don't want those edges all the way around to look all clean. So I'm not worried about, I don't want to do a lot of heavy rust, a lot of heavy soot streaks down the side of the hood. Just working it into the grill grates on those edges. Now this is I kind of learned this the last project. This real soft brush that I have it works real good, kind of just to, you know, kind of blend it all together, kind of just dull it down a little bit so it's not so harsh. So that's what I'm doing here with this nice soft brush. It kind of just pulls everything together. So I use my hard bristle brush to kind of grind it in there, and the soft ones just pull it all back.
Yeah, that's what the Bragdon powders need, is get that stuff down on there so they stick.
Yes, I totally agree, Barry. You got to give it a little friction. Back in there, kind of tone it down a little bit, pull it out. Spin around. I'm going to do the other side, so make sure I don't miss any of the edges.
Ow, excuse me.
You all right?
Yeah, no, I just dropped an Advil on my foot. It's all right. I'm good.
Take the time on getting it down in there and get the walkways. You know, because that's one of the areas that a lot of people try to avoid because they don't want to break the handrails or anything. That wedge-shaped brush gets down in there nice.
Joe, SPS Railroad.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Asking, is that just dark grime you're using?
Soot. The diesel soot. Go ahead, Bill.
No, I was going to say the same thing. I was going to bring up his question.
Okay. And yes, I finally get around to getting the nose. Sorry, it's a little off camera.
Come on, Joe, you got to do a little bit better than that.
It's just so hard to work the camera, work your project.
Welcome to our world.
It's tiring. I tell you, it's rough. Now I'm gonna go back with a little. I think I use a little earth just to flick it up on the fuel tank. Give it a little something extra. Hit them side sills, so splashing up.
Now, here's a stupid question.
There's no stupid questions, only stupid answers, Bill. Go ahead.
Okay. Do you recycle your powder off the work pad back into the containers?
No.
Okay.
Right in the garbage.
I must be the only cheapskate.
No, I do it too, Bill, especially if I get heavy on the powders. But sometimes I do it like on newspaper because I've ruined a dang cutting mat like that.
All right, here we go. Let's check it out.
Wow.
Oh, it looks pretty. It's so ugly. It's beautiful.
All right, let's listen. Let's listen in.
Nice.
So it puts out a pretty good sound, I think. I think that the key to this decoder board is that speaker being upside down like that.
Well, you got to get that so it has a clear path for the sound to get out.
Yeah. No, this is just a very inexpensive soundboard.
Yeah, N.W. Perry was asking, is there any way you could drill out the fuel tank and put a speaker in there? But there's metal weight underneath of that fuel tank, right?
I think, Barry, the loss of that little bit of weight in the fuel tank, I don't think is going to make that much more performance issues for you. So, yes, I think that is a big option. You can always replace that little bit of weight that you lose. I think you can replace by putting it on additional weight somewhere inside the shell. So we'll just do a couple run-bys here so we can hear the sound.
Not bad for a Digitrack soundboard.
Yeah, we can't hear the sound.
Really?
Yeah, everybody's on the board. They said they can't hear the sound.
Huh. It should be coming through. Yeah, it should come through because it's gone through the same audio channel that all our mics is coming in from.
I'm not hearing it.
Really?
So, with this board, you know, there's a couple little issues that I think this is the good entry level soundboard for Inscalers, because number one, it gets you started. It's an easy install. As you saw, we did this in like 2 or 3 evenings. But the sound, if you set it up right, the sound is optimal. Not optimal, but it's better. However, there is some downsides to this board. You know, ESU has a programmable board that you can customize all your features and stuff. Soundtracks offers a lot of sound customizations in the board. Now you can do it through Digitracks. You can, but the problem is their library is very limited, so they rely on more of model railroaders to make the sound files and upload it up to share with everybody. So it's more community based.
Yeah, there's a guy named John McMaster that just does a boatload of Digitrack sound files. And he does, actually, he does a better job than Digitracks does. Yes. Especially now that they have the 16-bit boards.
Right. And the other thing is, be aware out there, you know, buyer beware. If you do buy a Digitracks board and you want to customize the sound and re-upload it, you know, other than change what's stock on your board, you're going to need a computer interface, either the PR3 or the new LN1 or whatever they're calling it now. So you're going to need some kind of interface to interface with your computer to your Digitrack system to get onto the internet. So buyer beware, that is one little thing. The other thing I find with the Digitracks board, now I'm still doing research. I don't know if it's a CV function that I don't have set right, or if it's a programming deal, because when you hit a dirty spot on the track and the board loses power and it reacquires, what happens is it starts all over from the startup sequence, runs through the startup sequence before it spins the motor back up and starts moving again. So it's a real pain in the butt to run. However, there is, by using function 8 with this board, you can mute it and still run without sound. So those are the inherent issues, I would say, that I have with this board. However, you know what? For the money, it's better than nothing.
Yeah, they are pretty inexpensive. So,
how much was that, Joe? If you don't mind me asking.
I picked it up $69. What vendor did I get it from? I got it from Tony's Train Supply, Tony's Train Exchange. Yeah. I actually caught it on sale. I'm not sure what the MSRP is on it.
Yeah, the SDHX series for HO and N scale are a good bit cheaper than all the other sound decoders out there.
Right.
You know, like I said, you need.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Barry. No, Barry.
You need, well, like Joe said, you need a PR3 Extra, or the new PR4 to upload. And if you want to customize the sounds that are in one of these files, which are known as SPJ files, there's a third-party tool called SPJ Helper that lets you take those files and manipulate the sounds or build your own. But you have to be able to learn assembly programming to do it. It's a little complicated, but if you're that dedicated and want your own, you can do it.
Right. Now, the Digitrax board that's in that we just did, the EMD 710 sounds really well. There's only like 4 different horn options, so they didn't have a Conrail specific horn, you know, for me, but I just kind of picked one that's kind of suitable and sounds decent. So, you know, they give you some options in the board itself.
Well, before I get to that question, James has a question. He says, Joe, so you never could get the soundtrack to fit?
No. Soundtrack is a different project going on.
Oh, okay.
On my channel, I started doing an ST50 with a soundtrack install, and it's kind of been a little learning experience. I've had some hiccups, and I've talked about it in depth on my Facebook page. I actually had a live event because after all day working, I couldn't get the soundtrack board to fit in. What I had to do was take off the shrink wrapping, and then it would fit in so I don't have to remove any material from the shell. Now I'm working with the speaker issue, and I wanted to go Patrick Villette from Northern Rail Link. He uses Zemo speakers, and he's done some superb work with them. So I was trying to find them. The problem is I can't find any vendor. So I'm kind of hoping after the holidays they get resupplied or whatnot, because Zemo, from what I understand, is a Austrian company from Europe that makes these speakers. So, you know, we'll see what happens. Otherwise,
real good.
Yeah, they're very good. And I have the ESU speaker right now. And what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and wedge it in there, maybe move a little material from the shell and see if we can squeeze it in, because it's 11 millimeters and my width is 10 millimeters. So if half a millimeter on each side, it can't be that bad, I don't think. But more to come on that. So I hope that answers your question, James.
Yeah, you'll like that. Well, you said ESU speaker?
Yeah, ESU. Yeah.
Check Loke Sound has a little Sugar Cube speaker that I've seen put in N scale engines.
Yes, Loke Sound. That's the one.
Okay. Yeah, Loke Sound. That thing amazed me. The amount of sound got out of an engine, small engine like that.
What I like is they give you the baffle with it too.
Yeah, and I think that makes all the difference in the world.
Yes. Go ahead, Bill.
How I know, for those out there that haven't seen, Joe Desmond has a YouTube channel called Central Jersey Conrail in N scale. If anybody's interested, it's a very, very goes into a lot more in-depth things such as operations, you know, these types of situations drop in, but a little bit more detailed and stuff. So you should check his YouTube channel out. It's called Central Jersey Conrail in N scale. Very informative and very entertaining. But the question I wanted to ask, I heard you say earlier about the horns that you wanted to, that you were accustomed to. Is it being a Conrail guy, and I guess we could open it up to the community as well, how important is it for you to have the exact replication of what Conrail did at the time that you're, is it a big thing? Do you try to get it as close as possible?
Yes.
Or is it, you know, is every detail of your railroad, you know, based?
Oh yeah, I'm trying to emulate everything Conrail did. But the big thing, what I find, especially when I'm doing the locomotives like this, when you see railfan videos from Pentrex and all that stuff, when you hear a Conrail Leslie RS3L, it's like, bam, that's Conrail. Everybody knows that's a Conrail locomotive. You close your eyes, you can hear it. So when I'm running, I got a locomotive right now. It's a U23, and I have a sound file, and it uses a KLA 5, and I hear it, and I'm like, you know, it's
that's way different than a Leslie.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, a lot of Conrail guys they know that sound. Yes, they're specific to every railroad. A lot of railroads use specific horns.
Right. Yes. That I do know, yes.
Well, when I go to Amherst at the end of next month, Joe, I'm going to find out from TCS. I know they're working on a smaller version of the WOW sound.
Oh.
I don't know what the time frame is now, so I don't know when it's coming out.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah, and then I'm hoping to get my hands on their new Wi-Fi throttle and LCC command station to play with.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. Yeah, please keep
they
informed.
did a Facebook Live video of it. I've seen the prototype a few years back at the show, and it looks like the original looked like a TV remote control, and hidden under their test layout was a command station. But now they actually have it too, where it's like almost in its final form, and it's cool because the throttle by itself works as a Wi-Fi throttle, but it also works with any layout running Y throttle and JMRI. This will work with it right out of the box.
That's cool. That's awesome.
The command station has LCC ports on one side, and as of now, you can directly plug a cab from NCE into the other side of it. And who knows, they may add a Digitrax port or whatever. This thing is literally one box. Use the throttle you want. I mean, that's like command station nirvana as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Hey, we got any other questions out there, Bill?
No, not at this time. James Lofton is, he says, James K. So Joe, you know, we got it. James Lofton says hello to J&K. James says hello back. James Lofton says he's a speed matching script guy here.
Nice.
And that basically ends the Q&A as far as anybody's concerned. You know, no more Q&As. No more questions. I think you covered it all. Well, I have to tell you, Joe, once again, it is, you know, the lack of Q&A doesn't mean that it's not genuine. It's not generating any kind of a thing. I think everybody basically, you know, is like, it gets, it's, I think they're taking notes.
Good.
Yeah, you give a lot of good information, especially with the N-scale people out there, and I'm glad we're covering them because we don't seem to cover them enough. Like, you know, JD's last issue of the EMAG was all N-scale.
Yeah, and I apologize to JD. I would have loved to give him an article. I just was bad timing. You know, N-scale out there right now, everybody is like, we are. It's an exciting time. You know, you HO scalers out there, you guys have had some beautiful sound for 15 years, I'll say, roughly 15 years now. And we are, N-scale is just finally coming into that realm. I mean, look, they got the Intermountain just came out with the new SD40-2. They've already announced that they're coming out with a GP10, which is a 4-axle locomotive with an installed sound. So it's very exciting. I think N-scale right now is going to come into its own, where I think the N-scalers are going to finally be held to a standard or a regards as the HO scalers. So I'm very excited.
So no longer an adopted redheaded stepchild. Just basically a redheaded stepchild at this point.
Exactly.
Okay.
So,
and then eventually he's going to dye his hair blonde and join the rest of the family.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. Oh man, this you know, I have to say I'm glad the holiday's over, man. Now we can get back down to model railroading.
Oh yeah, I got a ton of work. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's
soon I'll be getting back to some of my stuff too. Well, I got Amherst coming up, so I got to work on that over the next couple of weeks and get that going.
When's Amherst?
The end of January, 27th, 28th, I believe.
I'll tell you in a minute.
Yeah, Bill's coming up. So.
Oh, you guys are both going?
Yeah, well,
a lot of guys are going. A lot of guys are going. But the Amherst is.
Yeah, Andy, myself, Ralph Renzetti, and Mike Dettinger are teaching at the Model Railroad University. So.
Oh, outstanding! Good for you guys.
Yeah, Thursday the 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th. Now the 25th and 26th, if anybody's interested, Miles Hale and his wife Fran, they do a clinic, a Model Railroad University clinic, and they have clinics on Thursday and Friday. The price of the clinic for the 2 days cost $97. And it's in the Sheraton Hotel. If you're staying in the Sheraton Hotel, works out really good. And Sheraton has the Sheraton Hotel also has a discounted price on their rooms for the show at Amherst itself, a special discount. So if you get online and go to the Sheraton, if you go on Amherst, the Amherst Railroad show, they'll they'll be able to give you Amherst Railroad Society, the Railroad Hobby Show. It's January 27, 28, 2018. It's the Eastern State Exhibition Center, and if you want, I'll put it in. I'll type it into the thing. It's the railroadhobbyshow.com. Anyway, getting back to it, Miles and his wife Fran do a clinic, a 2-day clinic in the Hotel Sheraton Hotel for the price of $97. For that price of $97, what you get is you get 2 tickets to gain entrance into the show itself at the Expo Center, and those are $25, I believe, right? $25 a day.
It's $25 for the weekend, yeah.
Yeah, $25 for the weekend. So you save $25. Plus, I did the shows 2 years ago, and it was very informative, very relaxed, and it was worthwhile. It was worth the bang of the dollar. It really was. I know that $97 isn't something we can go in the backyard and pull off the tree, along with the mortgage payments, the car, and health. I get that. I do. I get that. But if you can make it up, it really would be a good thing. And a bunch of us are going up there. Like Barry said, he'll be up there. Mike Dettinger, Andy will be up there. Ralph Renzetti will be up there. Miles will be up there along with his wife Fran, and a couple of other guys. I think Lloyd will be up there, and a few others. Mark.
Yeah, I know Lloyd will be there. James Wright will be there. Probably Mark Donovan, Curtis Hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, Robert Holloman.
Robert Holloman from California. He lives in Pennsylvania. Oh, California's making an all-the-way trip from the West Coast.
Called him out as California.
His first time east. Oh, okay, good. Anyway, the Amherst show was really good, and the show itself on Saturday and Sunday. Word of advice: good walking shoes.
Yeah,
good walking shoes.
As
good
last year,
shoes.
750,000 square feet of space in 4 buildings. I've been told they've added a 5th building this year. 5 buildings now.
I'm telling you,
don't forget the clinics on Thursday and Friday. You get breakfast and lunch both days too.
Yes, I forgot to mention that. If you're staying, if you do, you get breakfast, lunch, and to me, it's really worth the bang. It really is. Bang for the dollar, and it's worth it. I've made a decision. I'm going to go every 2 years, so I made it fine because this is the 50th anniversary, I believe, of Amherst. So it's a good time to go. Plus, the clinics are hands-on kind of stuff. I'm just trying to see. Miles is retiring from it this year. And
so him and Fran, this will be their last year. I mean, I don't know if they'll teach next year, but this will be their last year running it. So, everything goes good going forward. Mike and I will be taking over running it. So, we'll probably be, all the people we know in here, and YouTube model builders and other people we know, will be trying to get them involved. Because every few years we rotated through the clinics anyway. So it's time to start thinking about new ideas for clinics again. So,
yeah, the clinics are good. They have a thing on Scale Trains this year. Scale Trains will be there, and they'll be doing a workshop. Believe it or not, which I think is a pretty innovative idea. They'll be doing a workshop on how to start a small hobby business.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, it's
That's
gonna
cool.
be, and it's going to be run by Sean, I think the guy.
Yeah, I think Sean did. Yeah,
right. He's
and
going
then
to be
There's a bunch of others. TCS is doing, I think, an LCC clinic. So
and the show itself, with the 5 buildings that Barry talked about, if you guys go to your local train shows, it's that on steroids. I'm telling you, it's that on steroids. You cannot cover it in 2. I did Friday. I got there when it opened. Saturday at 9 a.m. I did the whole thing. I walked. I had lunch there. I met everybody who was watching YouTube Model Builders. I got to meet a bunch of guys. It was really great. And at the end of the day, I still didn't see everything I wanted. Yeah. In fact, I couldn't go Sunday. And this is the God's honest truth. I developed blisters on my feet from walking. So I couldn't go. So I had to get, I figured, and I gave my entry tickets away to a man and his 2 sons, and that were going. So it worked out pretty good. But in any case, if you guys can make it up in Amherst on July 25th, 26th, 27th,
January 20, that's to me. Now they're adding its 5th building. It's the largest train show in the country, as far as I know. And there's also free clinics at a lot of the vendor booths, and in the stadium teaching area in the Mallory building, I think it is. There will be free clinics put on by us in the Model Railroad University. So usually there's like a landscape clinic where you build the little woodland scenics piece, and then there's a building clinic where you get to assemble a DPM building. So it's a lot of work in a short amount of time, but we get it done. That's the first time I ever went up there. I took those clinics myself, and I attended MRU for a few years with Mike until Miles asked us to teach, and we've been doing it ever since then. And now there's several people from YouTube Model Bros, like Andy's teaching, Ralph Renzetti's teaching, so Mike and myself. So we got a great group of people. There's some vendors in there too, like I think Mike and Karen Baker from Nick and Nora Designs are both teaching clinics, and Mike puts on some fantastic clinics. So it's a good time for all. Great place to go hang out with fellow model railroaders, see some incredible things to buy, all the manufacturers, and every layout you can possibly imagine.
It is. I just got this.
Probably know the Greenberg shows, right, Joe?
I'm sorry?
You know the Greenberg shows, right?
Yes. We should do the Greenberg.
Think of that one in Edison.
Right.
The Better Living Center is probably about 20% bigger than that, and it's not the biggest building there.
Man.
Some of the other ones are smaller, but the Mallory building is broken into front and back half, and it's probably like 2 Greenberg shows by itself.
Yeah. I want to go up there. I got to do it one of these days.
Yes. Okay, Jim says, I have a DCN scale, and I'm thinking someday I might get into DCC. What options on an entry system to get started? Well, there's
what kind of locomotive is it? And asking about decoder wise or command station wise?
Sounds like an entry system. It sounds like he's talking what DCC system, because he doesn't have one now.
He has a DCN scale, and he's thinking about someday getting into DCC.
Yeah.
I was just going to throw in my vote was going to be for the Digitrack Zephyr. Best bang for your buck.
Yep, the DCS 51, I guess it's called now. 51, the Zephyr Extra. But NCE's not bad. I mean, NCE, the power cab, the basic power cab system is pretty easy to operate. But I myself have Digitrack Zephyr, because if you really want to plan for future growth, Digitrack is the way to go. Correct. Because if you want to get a lot more advanced stuff, sooner or later you're going to add a LocoNet and Digitrack accessories to your NCE anyway. Correct. And that's the only downfall I find to NCE. I like their throttle, I like how it works, but they need to expand a little bit their offerings, and then they could be a serious competition to Digitracks.
Yeah, I agree.
If you want to do signaling, you need a Digitrack's LocoNet to do signaling. There's nothing available that, directly works with NCE for that. But you can do it if you're using JMRI. You can put an NCE interface and a Digitrax interface in the same computer simultaneously, and it works just fine. But they're all very simple to operate.
Well, Ralph Renzetti says Digitrax Zephyr and North Star Railroad lines. Says Dwight, NCE, MRC, all very simple to use and cheap. And then our good friend Ralph Renzetti writes, I disagree, Barry.
Well, you know what? He's allowed to disagree.
So,
And I'm open to suggestions. I'm open to ideas, so.
If we were all the same, it'd be a very boring world.
Exactly.
This is true. This is true. This is true. Wait, I just got this from my commander-in-chief. He just handed this to me, John. I don't know how you do that. But he did.
He's up over your left shoulder.
He did. I just got it from him. He flew it in by air pigeon. December 28th, just to do a reminder, tomorrow, December 28th, 2017, will be the final Thursday night hangout. Johnny's Model Train Talk live with our good friend Johnny. It will be the last show for 2017. We will pick it up in 2018 again. It will be the last show. We also have an EMAG coming out in January, mid-January. So far, I have not heard what the theme of the magazine is, but knowing our good editor-in-chief, JD, it shall be one that is entertaining, provocative, and filled with tons and tons of pictures.
Yeah, absolutely.
And good articles from everybody out there. If anybody's interested in writing an article for the e-magazine, please go to the website at www.youtubemodelbuilders.com. Check on the e-mag, and then submit an idea for a story. Nothing is discounted. Nothing is disapproved. And if you don't know how to write, put two sentences together. They'll help you out, because I certainly don't, and they help me out. So by all means, please check them out. Let's see, one more time around the Q&A. Jim, join our regular chat after the show. That's Ralph. And we can talk. Jim Watson, Ralph, I'd like to hear how you did your fascia. Okay, that's a private thing going on between those two. So we'll call this a good night. A good night. A good night.
Absolutely.
Joe, I want to personally thank you and from all of us, Barry, John, all of us at YouTube Model Builders, for taking the time and the energy for putting these shows together for us. I hope that we can collaborate more going into 2018 with some more informative and definitely entertaining. Your enthusiasm, I will say this, Joe, your enthusiasm is very, very contagious.
Yes.
I'm a little under the weather tonight. I was thinking about bailing and getting John and calling my fireman friend John to jump in, and I said, "Nah, Joe's pretty cool. I'll hang out."
I was chomping at the bit.
I know you.
When I got to work, I was like, "I'm ready to go. Let's get out of here."
I know you got to stop texting me at 6:15, bro. In the morning. Really, I'm a retiree. I don't get up until about 9.
I forget. When I'm awake, not everybody else is awake.
Joe's texting.
You know what, Bill?
You ready, Bill? Are you ready?
Like,
we have a new nickname for Johnny.
What's that?
Let's call him Fireman Fred.
Fireman Fred.
Yes. For those that can't hear, because John's on a isolated mic, John just fired Barry. So, but again, Joe, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your enthusiasm, and definitely.
Yes, and we will be back next month.
Yes, we will.
Next year.
Yes, we will. Next year, January of 2018. Barry, once again, thank you for your directing skills and your. Yeah, I get lost with all this. I mean, the only thing I know how to turn a radio on. That's about my limited skill of technology. So without you guys, I'm lost. I'm lost. So thank you so very, very much. And to the community out there watching tonight, thank you, because without you, we're just talking to dead air. So thank you very much for the Q&A. Thank you for participating. And for all of you out there, have a very, very prosperous, but most important, please have a very healthy healthy. To you, to your families, from all of us at YouTube Model Builders, a happy New Year to you. May it be very peaceful.
Absolutely.
May it be very just what you want. Okay? We thank you for watching tonight. Joe Desmond, Into the Locomotive Shop. Look for more future shows. Turning up. We're doing a whole new thing into the new year. We'll keep you guys informed as we go along. So without much ado, thank you very much for watching. Take care. God bless. Hey, Joe, what do we always say?
We'll see you on the radio.
There you
Amen.
go. Take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye, y'all.